And you are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you to taking a lap of extra mile for today, August 10th, 2023. We got an Indianapolis twin billing this weekend. The H1 Unlimited season came to an end with the best final in recent memory. And help me, of course, talk about all of this and more, my co-host, Christopher Lehman. Chris?
How are you doing this evening, Daryl?
I'm doing great. I hope you're doing well. And for all those coming into the chat, make sure you get your comments in. We will read those as the show goes on. And it's been an interesting week on the interwebs and in the racing community. Some not so good stuff that happened in NASCAR. We'll get to that shortly. But just to be real quick, I know, Chris, you were away this weekend, but did you see the Montgomery, what they're calling the Alabama Slammer in Montgomery, Alabama over the weekend with the riverboat down there?
No, I did not.
Oh, you're gonna want to look this up on TikTok at some point. So just to catch you guys up with this story.
What is it? Hold on, let me get Alabama
Slammer. Just look up Montgomery, Alabama boat brawl.
Okay. I got to ALA and it filled itself in.
Yeah, and for those that didn't know, and you may have seen this online, there were some folks that tried to start a brawl at the Alabama boat ramp or boat dock with the co-captain of the boat down with the riverboat down there in Montgomery, Alabama, called the Harriet II, and they found out real quickly why you don't mess with the crew of the Harriet II. The folks that started the fight did get arrested, obviously, and being faced with misdemeanors. But the videos from this thing, it was like a WWE hardcore match in real time. Chris is watching it right now. I think my favorite part, and Chris, you might see it on there as you're watching it, is some guy just grabs a chair and just starts swanging on people like he's Barry Bonds going for the home run record. Like, those folks tried it in a small town and find out why you don't do that. That's what I will say about that. Chris is enjoying himself watching this video. But no, it was chaotic. Those folks are now turning themselves, the folks that started the fight are turning themselves in. There's been a lot of celebration for the folks that actually did the fight. And it kind of reminds me of some of the fights we see in NASCAR sometimes when folks just, they take too much from a certain driver, Ross Chastain, and just go at it. And to be honest, Chris, if NASCAR didn't change the rules the way they did with how they police the fights, I'm pretty sure we would have saw this in the garage with Ross Chastain.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's just the best. That's the best way to put it. That is wild.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that somebody caught it on camera. Well, multiple people. There's a lot of different angles. But
there's like 35 different angles of this. I have to go back and watch some.
So what did you say? What was that alliteration at the beginning?
The Alabama Slammer?
Yeah.
Yeah. It fit. But let's get into the racing. Let's start with the not so great news, and then we can get into the actual races from Michigan. Noah Gragson's time in the Cup Series came to an premature and unfortunate end this week when it was discovered that, I'm not going to mince it, he liked a racist meme regarding the George Floyd murder. Apparently he had liked this about a year ago, but as we know, the internet is forever, and it was found by a fan and reported, and Gragson was suspended indefinitely by NASCAR, was immediately suspended by Legacy Motor Club. Gragson requested his release from Legacy Motor Club this week, and that was granted. To be honest, in my opinion, that was a quit before you get fired moment, because I believe he was going to be released no matter what. And Chris, I'll just throw this one at you. Kyle Larson was not that long ago, and we still have these drivers doing stupid stuff on social media.
Yeah, it just it goes back to trying to overcome the reputation that NASCAR is a racist sport. They have done a great job of overcoming that stereotype and stigma, and stuff like this just doesn't help.
No.
Right? It's 2023, or in this case 2022 if it was a year ago. Everything you do online is tracked, and if you are any type of famous, why? It goes back to this. I respect, there are people that don't even touch their social media handles.
Yeah.
Right? They don't. They pay someone to do it for them.
Carl Edwards started Twitter and has made, I think, 2 posts since he started it.
Yeah. And I like those people. Like, just let your PR team do your thing. And I just don't get it. I don't get how this day and age, especially someone younger like him, he knows and understands the internet. He grew up on it. It's going to come out. It is absolutely going to come out. And he didn't even have thankfully, he didn't even have the smarts to use a burner account. He used his account. Like, what an idiot.
He used his government account. That's the hubris for me. You put this on your government account and thought it wasn't going to get found.
It's either that or it was a mistake. And
he was on a mistake. It was he left it there for over a year.
Well, if it was a he might have just didn't realize he was on his regular account. Thought he was on his, but I don't know. It's stupid. I don't know how this day and age you can do that and think it's okay. One, we're not even at the morality of it and how it's a very not okay thing to being racist is not okay, and particularly what he liked was not okay. And that obviousness aside, like, how much of an idiot do you have to be to do it, like, with your own account? And I don't, as far as working on himself, I don't think there's a whole lot to work on, to be honest with you. I'm going to do what I need to do to get reinstated into NASCAR, and it's self-preservation. It's not any sort of personal growth. So we'll see what he can do to preserve himself in the sport. I'm sure someone like Richard Childress will sign him.
It's hubris and it's privilege to think that he wasn't going to get in trouble for that, to be honest. He thought it was going to go under the radar and nobody would find it. And he was partially right. It did go under the radar. And there's an old adage that is said in my community, what's done in the darkness will truly come to light. And that's what happened here to Noah Gragson. The person that found it and the reporter that originally wrote about it got some heinous comments over the weekend. And it really burns me up because I'm friends with both of them on Twitter, and I'm really good friends with the reporter, Daniel McFadden. I've been on his podcast, Dropping the Hammer, a couple of times. And your favorite driver is the reason he got in trouble. It's not Daniel's fault. It's not the guy that reported it's fault. It's not wokeness fault. Noah Gragson screwed Noah Gragson. And people are talking about, well, that's fine. He's just going to come out like Kyle Larson. No, he's not. Noah Gragson was behind Ty Dillon in points this year. He had an average finish of 28th. He's not coming back to Cup that easy. Definitely not a top flight ride. I thought he was going to go to the Colic ride. That's not happening. Probably not this year, and probably not ever. Sponsors aren't going to want to touch him. He wasn't that good, and that's the thing. Kyle Larson, when he came back, they could not find sponsors for him. The only reason the Hendrick Cars thing is working out is because Rick saw a bump in his sponsorship, or in hits to his site, so he just decided to keep it. So now he just has the 5 sponsor, sponsored by his own company. Noah Gragson isn't that good in Cup. And that's before this incident. You really think a team's going to take a chance on him? You think they're really going to take a flyer on running an unsponsored charter car for him? That's not going to happen. He's back in Xfinity at best, I think, next year. And if he gets a Cup ride, more power to him. I don't see it being a top flight Cup ride because he does not have the talent privilege that Larson had. He just doesn't.
And I also, and not to defend anything, but Larson had done work with, I think, some inner city kids in Philadelphia. I think it was Philadelphia, right?
Yeah, that's where the charity is.
So he was doing that before, and he came up through Drive for Diversity. Larson's a little different. Not justifying what he did or anything, but I would say that he had a different reputation, and he was doing things within the African American community, within the Asian American community. He was doing those things beforehand. So at least there was a little bit of a track record. So when he says, "Hey, I'm sorry, I made a mistake," blah, and kind of went through what he was, his apology and stuff, at least there was a little bit of a record you could go back to and say, okay, it's not just saving my career. He was actually genuinely doing these things beforehand. Noah Gragson does not have that. He's a party frat boy who catcalls women on the streets and stuff. He's just a frat boy. So no one is going to... When he comes out with his inevitable apology, I will have zero faith that he's being genuine.
Oh, he came out with the notes at PR apology already. It was, yeah. I didn't even pay it any mind.
PR should have been running his account from the beginning.
Yeah, and I think that's, and those will be the last part before we go to break. We on this show, I think Caitlin and Lita were still with us at this point. We discussed the issues with one Noah Gragson, and I said it. He has got to mature or he's not going to make it in Cup. He hasn't matured. And now he's out of Cup.
And that's not just off track either.
Yeah.
He's a hothead and he has cost himself races on the track multiple times.
Yep.
Sorry, not interrupting. Back to you.
No, you're good. We saw it and that's actually a good point. We saw that at Chicago when he kept running into the wall. We saw it at Richmond. He kept locking up into turn 3 and 4, and that kind of contributed to the late race incident with Daniel Suarez. Gragson needed to mature, and the biggest problem with him, because it's the same with all the folks like this, they've got enablers around them instead of people that are going to tell them this is not a good idea. And until he gets his inner circle with people they're going to tell him no, he's not going to make it. And unfortunately, it might be too late. So we're going to take a break, and we're going to get into, when we come back, we're going to talk about Michigan, the race that never ended, or attempted not to end. And there is a surprising driver that is starting to put himself in the conversation for the NASCAR Cup Series Championship when we get to the playoffs. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break. You're listening to The Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, sports fans? You're listening to IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your favorite West Coast Wisconsinite, Bernie Bango, and if you're a cheesehead, come listen to my show, Big Cheese Sports, where we road trip around America's Dairyland, previewing, reviewing, predicting, debating, and digging into all that is Wisconsin sports at the college and pro levels. Join me on IE Sports Radio, Sundays at 1 p.m. Central Standard. Bernie out.
Well, what is up, Carolina Nation? This is John Felipe of the Carolina Cast, of course, the podcast of, by, and for the Carolinas, right here on IE Sports, your direct feed for all that is sports. And I'm reminding you to tune in Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern for the latest in Carolina sports, whether it's the Panthers that keep on pounding, the fly natures of the Hornets, the storming Hurricanes, the battle of the Blues with Duke and UNC, the fight of the Clemson Tigers, or the amazing atmosphere of any Carolina college. I'm talking App State, I'm talking ECU. I've got you covered. Once again, tune in for the Carolina Cast with me, John Felipe, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here in the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl and Chris with you this evening. Fortunately, no Michael, but we will have him back next week. And we were continuing our conversation on the Noah Gragson situation during the break. And Chris, you brought up a really good point. I want to come back with it. One, when you get to the Truck Series, as you were saying right before we came on break, you stop being a race car driver and you start being a spokesperson. I think that's the best way to put the difference between the lower levels in the National Touring Series of NASCAR. You are beholden at that point to multi-million-dollar sponsors with PR
billion-dollar
firms.
sponsors.
Yeah, billion-dollar sponsors with multi-million-dollar PR firms. that do not play about their image, especially on social media, because even one mistake can take $100 million worth of valuation off a company. Perfect example, when the fake Eli Lilly Twitter, back when Elon was doing his stuff with the check marks, made the post that they were making insulin free, that company lost $500 million in valuation in an hour. These companies don't play when it comes to social media. So when you are a representative of that company, you got to watch yourself on these official channels. If you got a burner, I don't care what you do on that burner. But on your official account, where those Fortune 500 companies are paying for you to do posts on there and sponsored ads and looking at how you're perceived on there, one mistake will cost you. That's what happened to Noah Gragson, and unfortunately, he did not switch over from that I'm just a race car driver mindset to I'm a company spokesperson that also drives a race car mindset, and that's what cost him. And I can't really feel that sorry for him, to be honest.
No, it's you choose a profession you choose. He could have chose to be anything, and he chose to be a race car driver, but he just chose not to take it seriously.
Yep. Because
if you take it seriously, you drop the bad people around you, and you're only as good as it's something like you're only as good as your 5 closest friends, or it's basically a concept that the 5 people that you spend the most time with is who you are. And Noah surrounded himself with the frat boy type instead of surrounding himself with mature veterans who have walked in his shoes. And I would say, we see examples of that in racing. I mean, look at all the hotheads that come in. Your Tony Stewarts, your Kurt Busches, your Kyle Busches. When they're young and stupid, they earned reputations, right? Mm-hmm. They at least understood the off-track stuff, and they could play the part. But on track, it took getting around veterans and learning how to conduct yourself. They did what they had to do to overcome those early on reputations, and Noah just never took that step. You see his social media, and he's always doing stupid stuff with his stupid friends, and you wonder why he liked something like that. Whether he liked it on purpose or on accident, who knows? He probably doesn't even know, to be honest with you. It's as easy as he went to hit the save button and accidentally hit like 2 and hit 2 buttons and didn't realize it, and he sent it to his stupid friends. Who knows? But even you and I, Daryl, right now, even right now as we talk, we are both representing the places we work for. Mm-hmm. And I mean, people don't really know who I work for, but you're a newsman, and the things you say, you're beholden to. I can't spout off and say anything that I want and get away with it. We usually say play stupid games, win stupid prizes when it comes to Darwin Awards, more or less, but it's the same thing here. You do stupid stuff, and stupid stuff's going to happen to you. And, Noah reaped what he sowed as far as I'm concerned. And if I don't see him in the sport again, I'm not going to lose an ounce of sleep over it.
Yep. It is what it is. Well, let's get to the happy stuff, which was the Firekeepers Casino 400, which was an incredible race once we got it going on Monday, as the rain just would not stay away from Michigan International Race, or from Michigan International Speedway on Sunday. And I hate it because they do the thing that I just can't stand. They were on 1 to go for the restart, and down came the rain on Sunday. And at that point, they tried to wait it out. They got the track dry again. We're about to send them out. It was about 6 o'clock, so this was basically, if it rained again, they weren't going to race. I'll give you 2 hints on what happened. The first one I'll give you 2 guesses on what happened next, and the first guess doesn't matter, doesn't count. Rained again, wiped it to Monday, and on that Monday, we saw a lot of championship contenders just get into trouble. Kyle Busch wrecked on lap 14. William Byron ended up on the DVP. He was out. Chase Elliott, he's not really a championship contender right now, but he's trying to get into the playoffs. He's now in a must-win situation at this point. He crashed out after 34 laps. The 20 of Christopher Bell got into trouble, was able to finish the race in 13th, but a lot of playoff competitors had really bad days on Monday in Michigan.
Yeah, that's kind of the summary that I got from my time perusing social media. And, I know that Bowman at one point led some laps and was in second place, and I was really bummed that I didn't get to see it. I'm very bummed that he wrecked out, whether it was Austin Cindric's fault or not, it's not up for me to decide. But he got wrecked out, and probably our best chance to get a win and make to the playoffs was Michigan at this point. So for the first time in Bowman's career at HMS, we probably missed the playoffs.
That's gonna sting. It's been a down year for Hendrick as a whole. Even Kyle Larson is not. He has not been that impressive.
What's crazy is that at the beginning of the year, the first 2 months, we were like, "This is the Hendrick show."
Yeah,
they couldn't lose at the beginning of the year, and now they suck. That's
I don't know
nicely.
I don't know if NASCAR found something and told them to change it behind the scenes, or they're just hitting a rough patch. But you're right. Hendrick is not the team they were a couple of years ago. It feels forever ago. For they were that team that was finishing 1, 2, 3, 4 at Dover.
Yeah.
They've just fallen off. And I don't know if that Dover race is even this year, but it still serves a point. Yeah, that was last year, but even still, last year, they were on top of it, even though they didn't win the championship. This year, they just, other than the first couple of months, they look lost.
Yeah, and you look back the last 3 years, they've had all 4 cars in.
Yeah.
They've had 25% of the playoffs have been Hendrick cars. And this is the first year. Now they got 2 that are they're effectively eliminated. They're both in must-win situations, short of some sort of crazy miracle happening and a lot of cars wrecking both races. But I would say that it's probably pretty safe to say that they're in must-wins. And, Hendrick got busted earlier in the season with those louvers, and nothing's been going right since, really. Maybe those
louvers were the key.
I don't know. Well, they were sending those cars. They were winning. They were getting sent back to the R&D center. So if they were running them, they would have got caught.
Yeah.
And you just wonder what the heck happened. Did they just hit on something in the off season that really got them, and then the other teams closed the gap? I don't know, but Hendrick is just, it's not been fun.
No, it also hasn't been fun this entire summer for 2311. It has just been a summer of misery, and it continued on Monday. They had both cars in the top 10 again. And the Pit Crews, once again. Bubba Wallace, he did take the blame. He asked for the wrong adjustment, and they could just never get it back. He ended up finishing 18th, but at the same time, they were points racing the whole day, so a win was not their main objective. I question that, given where we're going these next couple of weeks, but it is what it is. But Tyler Reddick was second place, and the rear tire changer hit the tire, knew it was loose, and let them send the car out anyway. Tyler had to come back, finish 30th, 3 laps down, and he was hot on the radio. This team, they kept it together long enough for Tyler Reddick to win his way into the playoffs. They don't deserve to go to the playoffs this year. They have not had it. And those pit crews, I don't know what happened at the beginning of the year. Bubba Wallace had a top 10 pit crew at the beginning of the year. I don't know what the hell happened between the Coke 600 and now, but we're back to last year, beginning of last year, levels of pit crew for both of the teams. It's not just the 23, it's the 45 as well. They are not executing with this team, and I know Michael Jordan is taking over more day-to-day since he sold the Hornets. He needs to start handing out some pink slips, because this is unacceptable at this point, what's going on.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy is that since the inception of 2311, this is now the 3rd season, I believe, right?
Yeah.
This has been a problem since the Daytona 500 of 2021 or 2020, whichever the first is. This is a problem that we have been talking about since the very first race of 2311. And we gave them the first year. This first season is a new team, a lot of chemistry that needs to be built. It is what it is. Last year should have been we're one of the better pit crews in the garage. Still not the best, but we're getting better. And this year should have been like, we're top 10. At least one of our teams is top 10. The other one's probably top 15 between Tyler and Bubba. And that is not what we're seeing. These guys are losing. These guys, Tyler and Bubba, are both losing out on pit road. They are not gaining as much as they're losing. And sometimes they come away with these huge gains, and it looks like all is going well, and then a couple weeks later they go right back to disappointing you. And this is actually something Denny literally specifically spoke about on Actions Detrimental this week. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it, Daryl, but Denny basically said, like, why would I put in a $2 million building for the pit crew when we can just go 2 miles down the road or however many miles and do everything at JGR? Well, Denny, maybe that $2 million, maybe however many millions of dollars it would cost would be a worthwhile upgrade. And speaking of facilities, Daryl, we do have to touch base on F1 and Williams.
Yes, we will get to that in a little bit. That whole debate about the cost cap and Formula One teams being able to upgrade their facilities. We'll get to that in the break or after the next break, but I got some comments for that. But on the other side, with the good team, the resurgence of RFK.
Yeah.
Or Roush Fenway Keselowski. That wasn't on my 2023 bingo card either. Chris Buescher wins the race. Brad comes home in 6th. Buescher, now 2 wins going into the playoffs. Actually led a race high 52 laps. I know Brad wishes it was him getting the wins, but I know he's got to be happy that at least one of his cars is performing well. Brad came in this year and said that came into this team and said he wanted to help build it into a winner. And Chris is starting to get there. And I think Chris Buescher is somebody, he's getting hot at the right time. You're gonna watch that 17 car when we start these playoffs.
Yeah, and I would say that you can hold a hot streak for probably about 5 to 7 races.
Mm-hmm.
I would say is where you're in prime hot streak, and then it'll start to fade a little bit. But that carries you through the first round of the playoffs, and anything can happen in that second round. And
I mean, that second round is just chaos.
And so, if you can, snag an early win, in the playoffs, and kind of keep that hot streak going and keep it alive, then anything can happen. And yeah, certainly RFK, they're getting hot at just about the time you want to get hot. I don't necessarily know how either are at road course racing. I mean, it's hard to, you don't necessarily watch where most of the other cars are finishing at a road course. But yeah, they're certainly hitting the ovals when you want to hit them. So,
yeah.
And Chris Buescher being a back-to-back winner was most certainly not on my bingo card for this year.
No. And he'll try to make it 3 straight when we go to Indianapolis this week, which is going to be absolutely insane if he pulls that off. And this might be the last race on the road course at Indy, because later on this fall, we've got an oval test at Indianapolis for Goodyear. The Brickyard 400 might be coming back, Chris, and with this new car, it likes those long straightaways. We can see some really fun racing on the oval again.
Yeah, and I just thank God that Bowman is a part of that tire test, because we need all the help we can get. So, yeah, it's definitely an encouraging sign to see that they're doing a tire test on the oval configuration.
Yes.
You never know, but it seems like the type of thing you'd do if you were planning on bringing it back.
It sounds like there's been conversations that it's coming back.
I mean, the Indy Road course was good for that one meme of Ross Chastain. Right?
It went funny, yes.
It went on TikTok with the Secret Tunnel song. But that's it. It really has not been enjoyable to watch. I mean, I know that I'm a homer, but like when I think of a road course, like I think Watkins Glen, and again, homer, but I don't know. It just I feel like Sonoma and Indy were the weakest of the road courses on the schedule.
Yeah.
I like the Daytona road course. I like the Roval. I like Watkins Glen. The other ones, as far as I'm concerned, even Coda can screw off.
I like Coda. Davis and Crook says what's good. The Indianapolis road course, it was a great experiment, but we talked about this back in May with the when we went there to start the month of May for IndyCar. It's just not that great. It's very blah. They are going to have an endurance race there, though, next year for IMSA, so that's neat. But I'm not, as far as stock cars in Indianapolis, if we're not running on the oval, why are we there? Let's go somewhere else and run a road course. But if we're going to Indianapolis, we need to be on those 2.5 miles on that crossing that yard of bricks in the oval configuration, of course. But the most exciting part of this race, though, for this week is we've got Formula One drivers and V8 supercar drivers invading. Shane Van Gisbergen, Austin Konetsky, Kamui Kobayashi, and Jensen Button will be in cars this weekend. And I don't want to say which driver will finish the highest, which series between F1 and V8 supercar, or the Supercars Championship, will have the highest finishing of those 4.
So, part 1, Davison, what's good was the half sirloins that I cooked for dinner. Absolutely phenomenal, perfect amount of medium rare, and it was just chef's kiss. I cannot wait to have it for leftovers tomorrow. Part two, Daryl. I think SVG is going to do good again. Kobayashi, from what I've heard, has been nailing the simulators. And from everything I've heard, which is not a ton but enough, is I would look for him to do pretty good. Apparently he smoked Tyler Reddick, and Reddick is no bum on a road course. And apparently he was running laps around Reddick in the simulator. So I would say that, you know, those two are probably going to be the higher two finishers, and I would say that as long as they both qualify okay, I would say that they're probably both top 10, at worst both top 15, unless they get wrecked out.
Yeah.
Jensen he's gotten into a little trouble the couple times that he's ran in Cup, but I love seeing him here. And then Rocky, who's filling in for Gragson, that car has just been trash all year. So I don't really expect a whole lot. However, he does have some NASCAR experience on a road course, obviously with Garage 56. So maybe don't write him off, but I probably wouldn't expect a ton out of him.
Yeah.
And that's more equipment than it is driver.
Yeah. It's going to be a fun race. I can't wait. But I will be glad when we get back on the oval when it comes to this road course. As we were talking about with the playoffs, Bubba Wallace is 15th. Realistically, he is in one of the last two spots that are still open for the playoffs, and they're going to rue the races they've lost because it is very, very in the realm of possibility. He only gets 2 points from these next two races. His road course performance is abysmal. Not going to mince words. The last place you want to go, having to either defend 16th, because that's where he realistically could be at going into Daytona, or trying to get back in the playoffs, is Daytona. And for the third straight year, we're going to do it again.
Living dangerously.
We all know what the definition of insanity is, but we'll see if the results are different this time. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we're going to get into that situation with Williams and trying to get their facilities updated. IndyCar is also heading in after a actual pretty good Motor City Grand Prix. And y'all are not going to believe how the H1 Unlimited title was decided on Sunday. We'll talk about it on the other side of this break on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Law.
And we're the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Rose Rate, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy white tea. They're coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we're back here on the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl and Chris here with you this evening, taking you through the final segment. And the H1 Unlimited National High Points Championship was decided on Sunday in the APBA Gold Cup in Seattle. And the U8 Beacon Electric of J. Michael Kelly picked up the win. He won the Gold Cup in both ends of the National High Points Championship, drivers and team owners, on Sunday. And it was an incredible 5-lap clash. We saw him and Andrew Tate in the 91 Miss Goodman Real Estate going deck to deck for all 5 laps. At one point making contact, and behind them, the U40 flavor pack of Dustin Eccles was in a lockdown drag-out fight with the U9 of Corey Peabody in the Miss Beacon Plumbing, racing for 3rd place, which could have given Peabody the championship had J. Michael Kelly finished 2nd, but the intra-team battle goes to the 8. And now H1 Unlimited is on break until next June. We got some new teams that may be coming in, and also a couple of new race sites next year. Going to be an exciting time for Unlimited Hydroplane Racing, and congratulations to everyone that competed this year in H1 Unlimited. So we got into it a little bit last segment, so we'll get into it now. Williams is trying to upgrade their facilities, and they were looking at a possible increase in the budget cap. The little teams said yes, but the big teams said no. And Chris, this is another one of those situations where I personally say, why was this put to a vote of the teams?
Correct. And why was this put to a vote of the teams who had the money to do facility upgrades before the cost cap was established?
Mm-hmm.
Your top teams that have all nearly unlimited funding, Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari. Once we started talking about a cost cap, they said, screw it. We're going to start working on our facilities now. And that they did. Mm-hmm. And now these other companies like Williams, who, the cost cap is helping them out, they want to upgrade. And now the bigger teams are like, no. And I think it's BS personally. I would say not an unlimited budget by any means, but I would say that if you have a reasonable request of I don't even know what would be reasonable, but, think about somebody like Andretti, who if they purchase, if they're able to get into the sport, they've got a virtually unlimited budget to build a new facility because they're going to build it headquartered right in Indianapolis, right? I think that's where they're building the new one, right? Is in Indianapolis,
mm-hmm.
Right? And they're building this mega thing. And they're probably just going to rent the space out to the F1 team for virtually nothing is what it's going to be. So, and you've got all these teams that they know how to get creative with the accounting, but there's no way to get creative accounting and buy facility upgrades. So I think, realistically, if we're looking at it, the way that the points plays out is that the team who wins the constructors, they get like 15 or 16% less wind tunnel time, and then it's kind of tapered down from there. And maybe they need to institute the bottom 5 teams have 25 million to upgrade their facility for the year or something, like a little bit extra in the cost cap set aside for facility only upgrades. Maybe it's something as simple as that, and it's limited to the bottom 5 teams, and the upper 5 have to figure it out. And I don't know, but it's absolute BS that Williams is being stonewalled on this.
Well, here's what it should do. It should be an automatic raising of the cap based on the revenue that they had this year. Basically, how the other sports do it, based on the revenue they had this year and the cost of materials going on for next year to help build these cars. Because remember, supply chain issues. Well, we're not saying supply chain issues anymore. The inflation that has been going on, those should come in as a factor, and the cap should go up every year. There's no point it should stay at one level. That's not how these caps work. So I don't understand.
We probably never will.
No. And the FIA needs to take more control in Formula One, because the teams have completely too much power, and it's allowing them to create a closed loop system for the benefit of themselves only. And that is not fair to the fans, and it is not fair to the sport when you are in a position of unprecedented growth that is unfortunately starting to cool off because one of your teams jumped the system and is probably going to win every race this season. So, Formula One and making bad decisions, a match made in heaven. But let's get into the Motor City Grand Prix, or the Music City Grand Prix, before we wrap up this evening. Kyle Kirkwood picks up win number 2 over Scott McLaughlin and Alex Palou. What I will say about this race, Chris, is it was actually a really good strategy-filled event. We did not have the crash fest that we were used to having in the first couple of years, and we actually finished the advertised distance for once. Actually, for the first time ever, I believe, in the Music City Grand Prix.
Yeah, and that's, we had kind of said coming into this week, I remember saying it last week, that this would be a good test to see what having the finale there looks like. Mm-hmm. And if, because we're going into it with what we've seen, right? And what we've always seen is demolition derbies. And so having a race that is not a demolition derby certainly gives hope that for the next 3 years, we get a good finish to the season.
Yes, and we're going to have a brand new downtown circuit next year. We're still going to have a bridge crossover, but it looks like it's going to be a bit more tame than this current layout. So we should get more good racing. And there are some decent passing zones here as well. So the Nashville fans were treated to what I think was a real treat, getting to see race cars on their streets. And this week we head on to Indianapolis for the third time. I don't know how to feel about them doing a third race at Indianapolis. I really think they should move this race somewhere else. And there is a possibility that is happening with the rumor that they're going back to the oval for NASCAR. So that's going to take away this doubleheader weekend for IndyCar, or for IndyCar and NASCAR that was kind of born out of the pandemic and trying to figure out how they were going to finish their seasons. But it was kind of fun to have the two fan bases kind of meet for one weekend at least.
Yeah, and it's just oversaturation at this point. You got the 500, and that's going to sell out or virtually sell out every time. But that's a huge facility. Yes. Massive. And so, even at like 75% capacity, it still looks dead.
Yes.
So I moving it, I think would be a benefit. And try to get somewhere where you don't really get, Watkins Glen, for instance.
I know why you said that, but they need to get back to Watkins Glen.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It certainly would be nice. But yeah, go somewhere where you don't go. You know what I mean? They do a halfway decent job of getting around, but they could certainly be better.
Yeah.
So yeah, spread yourself out a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So we are up against it now with time. So we're going to get ready for nearest the win. We have NASCAR and IndyCar, both in Indianapolis. Chris, who did everybody pick for the doubleheader?
Give me just 1 second here. I'm heading over to it right now.
Okay.
Okay, so we have 4 responses in. Okay, so we will first up we will do NASCAR at Indy. And let's see. So Daryl, you took Kobayashi, which is a good pick. Michael took Larson. Taryn takes Harvick, and I am taking SVG. And then we have Matt White's the only one that hasn't turned in. And then we've got IndyCar. So Daryl and Michael both took Scott Dixon. Taryn took Pelot, and Chris took Scotty Mack.
Mm-hmm. Gonna be a fun race. Good luck to all of your picks. And we're going to get ready to wrap up this edition of the Extra Mile. Remember, I'm at DK Jr. 12. Chris is at Fiji Sims if you want to get with us on Twitter. And make sure you keep it locked to all of our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter. I don't care what Elon Musk wants to call it. It's Twitter. And TikTok. And make sure, head over to iSportsRadio.com. Check out all the info about our shows. Catch up with the latest schedule and the latest sports news. And make sure you pick up some merch while you're over there as well. And if you missed any episode of any IE Sports Radio show, you can be heard anywhere podcasts can be found. And as well, the YouTube repository, which has a backup of every show we have ever done. So that'll do it for this edition of the Extra Mile. For Chris, I'm Daryl. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.